The Girl and the Lion. A story of courage and freedom. The sound of the plane landing woke Sofia from a deep sleep. At 12 years old, she had the ability to sleep anywhere, even during the 22-hour flight from Los Angeles to Johannesburg. Her parents, Elena and Daniel Morales, exchanged looks of relief seeing that their daughter was finally waking up just in time for landing. "We're almost there, sleepyhead," her mother said with a tired smile. "Ready for your new life?" Sofia didn't answer. She wasn't ready, and her parents knew it. Leaving behind her school, her friends, and her comfortable life in Los Angeles to move to a remote region of South Africa hadn't been her choice. But the financial crisis had hit the family hard, and when Uncle Roberto offered them jobs at his nature reserve, as he called it in his emails, her parents had seen an opportunity to start over. "You're going to love it," her father insisted, adjusting his glasses. "Uncle Roberto says there are amazing animals. You'll be able to see giraffes, zebras, and lions in the wild, not in a zoo." "Lions aren't really free if they're in a reserve," Sofia muttered, looking out the window at the vast African plains stretching below them. "It's just a bigger cage." Johannesburg Airport was bustling with activity. After collecting their luggage and going through immigration, the family was greeted by Roberto Mendoza, Elena's brother, a man with a robust build and a sun-weathered face. He was dressed as if he had just stepped out of a National Geographic documentary. Cargo pants, a vest with multiple pockets, and a wide-brimmed hat. "The welcome to Africa," he exclaimed, hugging his sister effusively and shaking Daniel's hand. "The journey to the reserve is long, about 5 hours by car, so we'd better get going." During the trip in a 4x4 truck worn from use, Roberto explained how the family business worked. Lion's Pride Safari was a private 5,000-hectare reserve where they bred lions and other wild animals. "We mainly receive tourists who want to experience a safari," he explained, while driving through increasingly rural roads. "But we also have a very important conservation program. We're helping to preserve the genetic diversity of African lions." Sofia, from the back seat, listened skeptically. Something in the way her uncle avoided certain details made her suspect he wasn't telling the whole truth. When they finally arrived, night had already fallen. The main house was a spacious colonial-style structure surrounded by acacia trees and with an impressive view of the savanna. In the distance, some smaller cabins for workers and visitors could be seen. "Tomorrow I'll give you a complete tour," Roberto promised, showing them to their rooms. "Now rest. Jet lag is treacherous." That night, Sofia couldn't sleep. The sounds of the African savanna were completely different from the Los Angeles traffic. The distant roar of what she assumed was a lion kept her awake, staring at the ceiling of her new room and wondering if this place would ever feel like home. At dawn, a noise outside her window startled her. Looking out, she saw a dark-skinned, thin man carrying what appeared to be a lion cub wrapped in a blanket. Without thinking twice, Sofia quickly got dressed and slipped out of the house, following the man. She saw him enter a cabin away from the main complex. Cautiously, she approached and peered through one of the windows. What she saw took her breath away. Inside were 3 cages. In one of them, a sickly-looking adult lioness lay on her side, breathing with difficulty. In another, 2 normal-colored lion cubs played. But what caught her attention was the 3rd cage, where the man was placing the cub he was carrying, a completely white lion, like snow, with crystal blue eyes that seemed to shine even in the dimness of the cabin. "What are you doing here?" The stern voice behind her almost made her scream. Sofia turned to find Themba, a South African man in his 50s, who, according to her uncle, was the main caretaker of the animals. I was just exploring," Sofia stammered. "What's wrong with that lioness? And why are the cubs in cages?" Themba observed her for a moment, as if evaluating her, and then his expression softened slightly. "The mother is sick. She can't take care of them," he explained. "The white one is special. His name is Charlie. He's a white lion, very rare and valuable." "Your uncle has big plans for him." "Can I see him up close?" asked Sofia, feeling a strange connection with the little albino feline. Themba hesitated, but finally nodded. "Just a few minutes. Don't tell your uncle I let you in." That was the beginning. During the following weeks, Sofia visited Charlie daily, always with Themba's complicity, who taught her how to feed the cub and care for him. Unlike the other workers, Themba treated the animals with genuine respect and affection. "White lions are sacred to my people," he told her one afternoon, as they watched Charlie, now growing, exploring a small outdoor enclosure. "They are the messengers of the gods. They appear in important moments." As Charlie grew, so did the bond between him and Sofia. The white lion, normally skittish with other humans, was docile and playful with her. When no one was looking, Themba allowed Sofia to enter the enclosure, where she spent hours stroking Charlie's incipient mane and whispering to him about her life in Los Angeles, her fears, and her dreams. "It's as if he understands me," she once told Themba, "as if he knows exactly what I'm feeling." "Maybe he does," the man replied with an enigmatic smile. "Lions see beyond what we see." Meanwhile, Sofia began to notice strange things at the reserve. Groups of men who looked like hunters arrived in luxury vehicles, had private meetings with her uncle, and then left without having done the typical tourist safari. Occasionally, some adult lion would escape, according to the official explanation, although they never found it. Her suspicions grew when one night, unable to sleep, she overheard a heated argument between her parents. "I can't continue with this, Elena," her father was saying. "You know what Roberto is doing is illegal. And what do you propose? Go back to Los Angeles with no money, no house, nothing?" Her mother replied. "It will just be a few more months, until we can save enough." "Canned hunting is cruel. They're breeding lions just so rich people can kill them in fake hunts. Is that the example we want for Sofia?" The girl's heart froze. Canned hunting? Were they breeding lions just to kill them? She immediately thought of Charlie. Would that be his fate? The next morning, she confronted Themba, who, after a long silence, confirmed her fears. "Your uncle sells lions to private hunting grounds," he explained regretfully. "We raise them here, accustom them to humans, and then they take them to enclosed areas where hunters pay thousands of dollars to kill them. They have no chance to escape." "And Charlie?" asked Sofia, her voice breaking. "White lions are especially valued by hunters," Themba replied, avoiding her gaze. "Your uncle has received a very high offer for him. When he turns 2 years old, enough for his mane to be impressive." He didn't need to finish the sentence. Sofia had already made a decision. That night, after making sure everyone was asleep, Sofia slipped to the cabin where they kept the vehicle keys. She took those of one of the older trucks, which Themba had basically taught her to drive during their afternoons together. Then, with her heart beating like a drum, she headed to Charlie's enclosure. The white lion, now the size of a large Labrador, although he was only 10 months old, greeted her with a soft purr. Sofia opened the enclosure door. "Come on, Charlie," she whispered. "They were leaving." To her surprise, the lion docilely followed her to the truck. With effort, she managed to get him into the back, covered with a tarp. Before starting the engine, she left a note on the cabin door. "I'm sorry. I can't let them kill him." She drove on the only road she knew, heading east, where Themba had mentioned there was a government nature reserve, a place where animals were truly protected. It was almost 200 kilometers, and she barely knew how to drive, but determination burned in her chest stronger than fear. Dawn surprised her in the middle of nowhere, with her uncle's reserve far behind on the horizon. Charlie dozed in the back, occasionally poking his head out to look at the landscape or lick Sofia's hand as she reached back to pet him. "We're going to be okay," she promised him, though she wasn't sure how she would fulfill that promise. By mid-morning, the cell phone she had borrowed from her mother began to ring insistently. She turned it off. She knew they would be worried, furious even, but she couldn't stop now. The real problem came when, about 50 kilometers from their destination, the truck began to fail. The engine coughed, smoked, and finally stopped in the middle of a dusty road, surrounded by thorny bushes and with no village in sight. "No, no, no," Sofia muttered, turning the key again and again with no result. Come on, please." Charlie sensed her distress and emitted a soft growl, rubbing his head against the girl's shoulder. Sofia took a deep breath. They couldn't stay there. If they were found, they would take Charlie back, and she couldn't prevent his fate. "I will have to walk," she decided, opening the back door for Charlie to get out. "Come on, friend. It's not that far." What Sofia didn't know was that her uncle Roberto had sent 2 of his best trackers after them as soon as they discovered her absence. Men accustomed to following wounded animals through the savanna, for whom finding an abandoned truck would be a piece of cake. They walked for hours under the relentless sun. Sofia shared her scarce water with Charlie, moistening his tongue to refresh him. The white lion followed her like a faithful dog, though occasionally he would stop, sniff the air, and growl softly, as if warning of some invisible danger. When the sun was beginning to set, Sofia spotted in the distance the watchtowers marking the entrance to the government nature reserve. They were close, so close. The sound of an engine startled her. A few hundred meters away, a cloud of dust revealed the approach of a vehicle. She knew it was them, her uncle's men. "Run, Charlie!" she shouted, gently hitting the lion's back to urge him forward. But Charlie didn't move. Instead of fleeing, he turned toward the approaching vehicle and adopted a defensive posture in front of Sofia. Despite his youth, at that moment he seemed like an ancestral guardian, protecting what he considered his. The vehicle stopped about 50 meters away. 2 men whom Sofia recognized as her uncle's employees got out, along with her father. Seeing Charlie protecting his daughter, Daniel Morales turned pale. "Sofia!" he shouted. "Move away from him slowly." "No," she replied, hugging Charlie's neck. "They're going to kill him. They're going to sell him to be hunted as a trophy." The men advanced cautiously, one of them holding a tranquilizer rifle. Charlie growled, showing his teeth, still small but sharp. "Daughter, please," her father pleaded, with his hands raised in surrender. "I understand why you did it. I want to save him too." Sofia hesitated. Was he telling the truth? "Your mother and I have decided to leave," her father continued, taking a step toward her. "We can't be part of this. But taking off like this, alone with a lion, is too dangerous. Let us help you take him to a safe place. Legally." Charlie was still growling, but Sofia noticed that her father was speaking sincerely. Carefully, she stood up, keeping a hand on Charlie's back to calm him. "How do I know you won't take him back to Uncle Roberto?" "Because I've already contacted the authorities," her father replied. "Your uncle is being investigated for illegal wildlife trafficking. These men don't work for him, but for the Wildlife Conservation Department." One of the men showed an official identification that confirmed her father's words. Sofia felt an enormous weight lift from her shoulders. The next few hours were a whirlwind. Conservation officials, veterinarians, and rangers arrived at the scene. Charlie was temporarily sedated so he could be safely transferred to a rehabilitation center within the government reserve. Sofia didn't leave his side at any moment, holding his huge head in her lap while he slept during the journey. "White lions are extremely rare," one of the veterinarians explained while examining Charlie. It's a genetic mutation, not true albinism. In the wild, there are fewer than 10 specimens. Your friend is very special. I know, replied Sofia, stroking the snowy fur. Can he stay here? Will he be safe? This is a government-protected reserve, the woman assured. There's no hunting here. We have a special program for white lions, with an extensive territory where they can live in semi-freedom. Charlie will have a good life. 3 months later, Sofia and her parents had settled in Cape Town. Her father had found work as a photographer for a nature magazine, and her mother taught Spanish at an international school. Roberto was facing charges for illegal trafficking of protected species. Every weekend, the family visited the reserve where Charlie lived. The white lion, now larger and more majestic, always seemed to recognize Sofia among all the visitors. He would approach the limit of his territory and watch her with those blue eyes that seemed to contain all the wisdom in the world. "I've never seen anything like it," commented one of the rangers. Normally, reintroduced lions quickly forget their connection with humans, but he remembers you. It's as if he knows you saved his life. On her last visit, as she watched Charlie resting under the shade of an acacia tree, Sofia reflected on everything that had happened. She had lost her home in Los Angeles, had risked her relationship with her family, had driven alone through the African savanna with a lion as her only companion, and she regretted nothing. "Do you think he's happy?" she asked Themba, who had left her uncle's reserve to work in the conservation program. "Hey, look at him," the man replied, pointing to how Charlie stretched lazily under the sun. "He's where he belongs, free, protected, living as a lion should live. And all thanks to you, brave little one." Sofia smiled, feeling a peace she hadn't experienced in a long time. Charlie wasn't a pet. He never had been. He was a magnificent being who deserved to live in freedom, not become a trophy on some wealthy hunter's wall. As they walked away, Charlie raised his head and emitted a soft roar, as if saying goodbye. Sofia knew she would continue visiting him as long as she could, that she would continue fighting for the protection of wild animals, and that the story of a white lion and a girl who crossed half a continent to save him would inspire others to defend those who cannot defend themselves. Because sometimes, the courage of a single person, even a 12-year-old girl, can change the destiny of an extraordinary creature. And in that process, it can also change the world, even if it's just a small corner of the African savanna.